So one thing I really like is religious mythology. I find it quite interesting. I don't really go much on my own time to research it, but whenever I like learn anything significant, I always find it kind of exciting because it's like certain mythologies take it in like super weird, really fun, exciting directions. I mean, just the story of Zeus is super interesting. I think he's the son of Kronos, which it, Cronus like castrated his own dad or something, and then Zeus like had to and then Cronus like ate some of his like children, and then Zeus like had to rip them out of his stomach. It's super weird, but it's kind of awesome. So whenever that kind of stuff is used as an aesthetic, it can be really cool and exciting. But it's also super easy to you know rely too heavily on that and not have any like originality. But Hades, oh, it absolutely stands on its own 2 feet while also being pretty faithful to Greek mythology. I don't tend to like roguelikes. I did like Binding of Isaac, but I did have a few huge problems with it that kind of led me to not really play it much after I played it a couple times. As for Hades, that I just kept wanting to play over and over again. One thing that kind of sets Hades apart is there's always progression. Like you're never like, oh, well, I lost that run. Better do another run and hope for the best. I mean, it's like, yeah, you're doing a run and hoping for the best, but you keep gaining darkness, which can give you special bonuses. I mean, no, there's a limit, but there's a lot of bonuses that you can get. Flip sides of those bonuses, or it's kind of weird, but yeah, you can keep adding to yourself. You can keep changing things. You can there's always some sort of progression that you're going to make throughout the story. Um, I mean, sure, you maybe could uh, get through everything, but by that point, you're going to be done with the story, and there's a lot of stuff to do. So it kind of starts out. It's like you are Zagreus trying to escape from hell. You are the son of Hades. I guess Zagreus is real in Greek mythology, but there's so little known about him that they just took tons of creative liberties, which that's great. And you can flesh out this whole character that like barely existed before. And yeah, you're trying to escape Hades, and you get what is it, like 6 weapons? So you get at the beginning of your run, you get to choose one of the weapons, and you go out, and then you get boons from different gods, which are your upgrades. Well, your main source of upgrades. Each god has different types of upgrades. Like let's see, what's her name? Athena. Basically gives you deflection. So any projectiles, if you get certain boons, any projectiles you get hit with, uh, depending on what part of your kit it applies to. Like if you use a dash, it might deflect and do damage. Your regular attacks might deal more damage and deflect attacks, or your special. Or if you take damage, you're just temporarily deflecting attacks. And like each god has all these different types of bonuses. What's another one? Dionysus, I really liked his. He gives hangover damage, which is basically just a poison effect, which stacks, I think, like 5 times, and just does damage over time. And there's there's so many gods that you just get more and more bonuses. And then in the beginning, like the more runs you do, the more gods you unlock. I think Zeus is only like you can only see him on your second run, and he will guaranteed be the first boon that you get. And each time you get a boon, you get 3 different boons to choose from. So if one doesn't look that great, you can choose one of the other 2. Or if 2 of them don't look that great, well, you still have a third option. And each one has a different rarity, which will change its effectiveness. And the more you get through, you can get upgrades so that you have a higher chance of gaining more rare boons, which will help you get out better. There's I think 4 areas. Let's see. You go through that one, that one. Yeah, there's 4 areas to go through. There's Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, and then the Seder tunnels, and then you get the final boss. And you're gonna be fighting the final boss multiple times just to get through the story. And even if you lose, it's fine because you can upgrade yourself again before you go into a run, and then you can get different boons, and then every run changes, and then you can also get dataless hammers where it upgrades your weapon, just like your regular attacks or your special stuff like that. And then it also like even if you die, it can progress the story. Up to a certain point, obviously, but just because you die doesn't mean you're not progressing, even with the story. After each run, most characters will have some new dialogue to say. More drama unfolds, all that kind of crap. And the characters in this are phenomenal. You not only got Greek gods to interact with who are just super eccentric and like pompous in some cases. You also have people of the underworld. You have the Furies. You have the maid, Miss Dusa, who's just a Gorgon head. You have Achilles, who is the one that trains Zagreus. I mean, there's just more people there's just tons of characters to interact with, and you even get like social links, kind of like in Persona. And each time you give them it's nectar. Each time you give them a nectar, like you get a little bit more connection with them, and if eventually if you get all the way with those. Okay, the first time you give them a nectar, they will give you a special item, which can help you on your runs. And then after that, it's like you just build a deeper connection with them. In some cases, in some rare cases, once you give them enough, and then you give them one, and then you give them another item called ambrosia, you can sometimes gain an extra item that will also help you on your runs. You've also got the house contractor and the chef and some sort of shopkeeper or whatever to give you even more stuff, trade for items, make the main hub area more exciting to look at. There's the fated list, which is just a list of the fates like goals for you to reach, which give you more rewards. There's so many things to do, even though it's a roguelike. Like with Binding of Isaac, that was kind of a problem I had. It's like the only thing to really do is do a run, hope for the best. That's it. And then, yeah. And not only that, like, you couldn't really, unless you memorized what each item was, you didn't really know what you were getting. So it was like, all right, I guess. But, with Hades, it's like, hey, you know exactly what you're getting. You get to choose what you're getting to some extent. And it's great. I would say of all the weapons, my favorite is probably... it's a tough decision, actually. It kind of depends on the run. But I would say, to some extent, my favorite is probably the fists. The twin fists, which are just basically gauntlets, and you punch with them, and they're really fast punches, so they're very effective. I wouldn't say they're necessarily the best weapon. It kind of depends on what feels good for you, but it's pretty good. As far as boons, it kind of depends. Again, it always depends. If I were to get only one type of boon from a single one of the gods, I would have to say probably one of my favorites is Poseidon. He gives a lot of knockback, and sometimes your knockback can go twice or knock into walls and do more knockback. And, in later areas of the game, some of the spaces are kind of tight, and you basically you knock one enemy back and just explodes everything. It's not the best against bosses. There's better things against bosses, but it's phenomenal. And then, sometimes you can get duo boons, and I think my favorite duo boon to get is one with Ares and Artemis, which sends out blade rifts, and then they seek out enemies. And then I think there's another duo boon you can get, which sends out when you cast, which is another one of your abilities. You can send out 2 casts at once. So if you got blade rifts and seeking, you can send out 2 blade rifts at a time, and then it just demolishes everything. One thing that's really nice to have is Skelly, who is both a character and a punching bag to test out weapons, which is a great thing to have before you start a run. It's some nice practice, and each weapon can get some upgrades, so it's kind of nice to test those upgrades out as well. Throughout each run, you can sometimes encounter certain special characters, and sometimes they'll give you some like bonus stuff. Like one of them gives you a choice between health, money, which is a temporary thing you can use in your runs, and darkness to upgrade stuff permanently later. And then there's one where it's like, oh, you can make your boons more powerful. And then there's another one where it's like, here you can get some temporary bonuses, or once you get enough upgrades to be able to get more lives per run, you can like get all of your lives back if you've lost any. And they're all based on luck, so you might not run into them, but oh my god, it is nice to run into them. I will have to say one of my favorite moments in the game is one that you encounter very late, but it's still kind of like got me semi more excited to play, and that was one of the characters you can encounter is Orpheus, and you can start telling him stories so that he'll get more songs because he's singing of your tales. And Zagreus will just constantly lie to him and tell these like grandiose tales that never happened. And one of them, when you get a boon from Dionysus, and he's like, "Hey Zagreus, let's play a little prank on Orpheus, and yeah, like here we'll tell him such and such." And then Zagreus goes to him and he's like, "Oh yeah, Orpheus. By the way, did you know Dionysus and I are the same person?" And what's really funny about that is I found out in Greek mythology, since so little is known about Zagreus, one of the theories is that he and Dionysus are the same person, and Zagreus is just a different name for him. So it was It was especially interesting to see that there's actual more tidbits of little lore here and there, because I kind of like the deep dive. As for the main story, I'm not going to spoil it too much, just because it's something to experience. But it is phenomenal. You find out why Zagreus is really trying to escape, and then once you escape a few times, that develops, and you try to figure out a solution to this problem that you're having, and it's kind of heart-wrenching. And then even once you finish the story, you can still keep going. There's still stuff to do, and you can still develop some of the characters, including one that only shows up near the end. And then you can always just keep playing, always keep doing more runs. It's a phenomenal game. I think I got through somewhere around 50 runs before I finished the story. So there's a lot to do, and it will take quite a while. So if that's ever a concern, which it would have been for me, there's plenty of playtime even just in the main story. I don't know how much I'll go back to it, but I will always kind of keep it on the back burner of, do I just need a run of Hades right now? I think I might just need a run of Hades right now. So yeah, I really enjoyed that game. It definitely deserved a Game of the Year nomination. And yeah, thank you for watching. Click all the buttons and have a nice day.